because when you go into a meeting, when you go into a conference, when you go to see somebody, handing somebody a business card is great. But if you can hand them a book.
Welcome to the 5 Questions Podcast, where we unlock real estate and business insights one question at a time. Welcome to the 5 Questions Podcast. I am your host, Mario Lamar. Our guest on today's show has had a career in the defense industry, then transitioned into real estate investing and retired at the age of 44. He is a best-selling author, a coach, and public speaker, and he loves sharing his knowledge and experience so that others can enjoy the same level of freedom that he does. Welcome to the show, Tony Lopes. Tony, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Mario. I so appreciate having you on today, and we're going to have a lot of fun during this podcast.
Absolutely. Tony, the concept of this podcast is very simple. 5 questions about real estate investing or business, and we get straight to the point. You ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. Tony, we spoke in the introduction about you going from the defense industry into real estate investing. I need to understand what motivated you to transition from a successful career in the defense industry to a real estate investing career. And at the beginning, how did you manage both at the same time?
Yeah, great question. And some of this may actually apply to your listeners and your viewers from the standpoint of, that decision was made early on, and I'll say shortly after I graduated college, because I came from a family, right? My parents were immigrants. They came to this country, they saw a lot of opportunity, and they handed down the mantra of go to school, get a good education, you'll get a good job, and you'll be set for the rest of your life. A lot of us grew up with that. That's the age our generation grew up with that mantra,
Absolutely.
right? And so that's what I did because I didn't know any better. So I went to school, I got a great education, ended up with a great job, and thought I was going to be set for the rest of my life until I got laid off, right?
Yeah.
That was nowhere in the plan. That was nowhere part of the mantra. And so that happened about 4 years after I had graduated from college with my engineering degree and with my MBA. And I had great, paperwork, so to speak, great degrees, but I still got laid off. And so, yeah, at that point, being laid off, I was laid off for 3 months. I had to think about, like, do I want to continue down this road of being, harnessed to a job and not really have any other way out to enjoy my freedom? And so that's where, I had to get another job because I wasn't financially independent at that time, Mario. I wasn't, right? I was young. A lot of bills to pay at that
Yeah.
point. And so I ended up getting another job. And then shortly thereafter, I started to get into real estate. My parents, my father had a couple of multifamilies, so I was somewhat familiar with it, but I
Okay.
didn't do too much. I didn't work within, so to speak, the business of multifamily real estate. So I had some familiarity, and I knew that was a way to generate additional income, a
Yeah.
second means of income. And so that's the road I started to go down. Once I landed on my feet, working my job 9 to 5, I started getting involved with real estate, buying buildings slowly. A 3 unit building, a 4 unit building, a duplex, right?
Yeah.
My family was very blue collar. I did not grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. We didn't have a lot of money. And so, I share that perspective because I think, again, a lot of your listeners and your followers and your audience, may come from that same background where it's like, you have to start somewhere,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
You're probably not going to buy an apartment complex with, 50, 60 units, right? That's probably not going to be your starting point. It's going to be, a small multifamily. And that's how I got started. And when you look and you chat with some of these other large investors out there, most likely they started the very same place,
Yeah.
Mario, buying a condo, renting it out, buying a duplex, renting it out. I know some of these guys, and let me tell you, that's how they started too.
So, basically learn how to walk before you run. and especially in the real estate, because if you do a wrong move, you could lose a lot of money. So
Absolutely. You're right.
that brings us to our question number two. And now you invest in a lot of you have a portfolio, a lot of properties. What is the investment philosophy or strategy, and how do you evaluate potential real estate opportunities?
So it changes as you grow, as your business changes. For me, first and foremost, it's my philosophy is I don't buy anything if it doesn't cash flow on day one. It needs to cash flow on day one.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
that's one of my philosophies. The other one is, I'm pretty much a buy and hold investor. I like to see the long-term appreciation of a property along with seeing the rents go up. That's just what I enjoy. Other people may have a different appreciation for doing, maybe getting their buy a building, do some value add quickly, make some apartments look nice, and then sell the apartment building within 3 to 5 years. That's not really me, but it's for some people that absolutely works, and that's okay. And then, one of my other philosophies is I don't like to pay taxes. I just don't. I pay plenty in property tax.
yeah.
So I pay my fair share. And so for me, I try to avoid paying taxes by using cost segregation studies to be able to help reduce my tax base. And then also when I do sell a property, I do try to use a 1031 exchange so that I avoid paying taxes on the profit of any property that I sell to the best of my ability. So there's some strategies that I use, in sort of investment philosophy. But depending on where somebody is in their career, if they're just starting out buying their first property, they may be looking specifically at how much they can cash flow per door, right?
Right,
So they may
right,
buy a duplex and they may have a bogey, a philosophy of saying, I need to make at least $200 per door.
right.
So if they buy a duplex, they got to make $400 a month for that duplex, $200 per door per month. Okay. So, and that's how I started. When I started buying real estate, I looked at it on a per door. People, would say, Tony, take us back. What metrics did you use? What was your cash on cash and what was your IRR and what are all the and I'm like, I didn't use that. For me, it was purely, cash flow per door. And I had my metric. At the time, it was 300, 3 to 400 I wanted to make per door. Times were different back then. Now it's a little more difficult because prices are so high. The cost of money is so high. So for new investors, it's usually something like that. How much per door do they want to make? And then separately, like if you're a more seasoned investor and you have more property, or if you're going after larger deals, to a large extent, we use the cap rate as a
Yeah.
metric to determine which may be a better property. This one offers a 6% cap rate or yield. Think of it as an interest rate that you're getting, like you would get an interest rate from a bank, 6%. 6% cap rate is how we calculate it for larger apartment complexes. Or another one might offer 8% cap rate, right? Yield. So we kind of look at that as a starting point as to which building we want to dig into further.
So when newer investors can use a simple strategy of, per door, don't overcomplicate things. Make sure you cash flow because that's, it is a business. You want to make money. But as you evolve in your real estate journey, you have all these different metrics that you can use.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
brings us to question number three. And this is we're going into a little bit a different direction here to get maybe bigger deals. Um, you talk about branding, having followers on social media. You also used of becoming an author. You wrote a book, which we'll talk in a little bit. That brought you to become a $20 million investor.
Yeah.
Can you highlight the importance of personal branding, and how did building your personal brand contributed to your success in securing maybe substantial investments?
Yeah, great question. If you want to grow in this business, scale in this business, eventually you're going to run out of money.
Yeah,
You know, when you buy your first deal, you probably have, you know, the down payment either saved up or you're going to do a cash out refinance on your primary residence or something like that. Or maybe you get it by taking out a loan from your 401k plan and paying that back slowly back into your 401k. You know, there's a lot of different strategies you can come up with for a down payment. But after you've pulled that trigger and you bought your first property and maybe your second property, uh, the cash starts to run out for that down payment. So you have to come up with some other creative ways to come up with uh, that capital, that money for the down payment.
right.
And so for me and us, we're looking to grow, or we firmly believe, and we're going to talk a little bit about Renter Nation, but I absolutely believe we are in this country, in the United States, heading more and more towards needing more multifamily units. We're going to have more renters than owners of homes. So we're growing, we're scaling, and we need money. The best way to, you know, show yourself as an authority is to be able to talk about a lot of different aspects beyond just the multifamily space. So for me, that was, you know, really combining all my ideas into a book. And so that book is such a huge contributor to my authority on the subject of macro and multifamily investing, because when you go into a meeting, when you go into a conference, when you go to see somebody, handing somebody a business card is great. But if you can hand them a book that explains many different aspects of what's happening in the world and why it contributes to a renter nation and why we need to be investing in some different assets. That authority is just huge,
Right.
right? That you gain versus handing somebody a business card, right? I gift my book to people all the time, because I want them to have all the information, right? And I believe that's, you know, that's a huge part of the branding that I bring, is using my book to substantiate and to prove I am an authority within the real estate space. And so that has led us to, you know, yeah, one of my first clients who was able to bring $20 million you know, to us. Basically, I was just on a Zoom meeting yesterday speaking with another individual that I've gotten to know well through the book tours, through the speaking tours. I've gotten to know well. He was just chatting about how, and we've partnered on other deals in the past, how he has a new investor who's going to be bringing 50
Wow.
million dollars to a deal. We're looking at a 700 unit project right now in the States. And yeah, being able to scale, you need to have the ability to raise capital, and you know, you need to be an authority in the field. And I could talk macro all day long
Yeah.
as to why we are becoming more a nation of renters than owners.
So,
So yeah,
so build,
that's the deal behind
building
the
a
book. And
building a brand, you know, show yourself as an authority, or, you know, at least know what you're talking about, but
yeah,
bring value behind your brand. Not just a logo, you know, like bring
yeah.
value. That's what I get from what you just explained.
Yeah,
That
absolutely. And that doesn't happen all in, you know, all in day one. It takes time. It
Yeah,
takes time. So
absolutely.
for again, for some of the listeners, some of the viewers out there, the audience, you know, start somewhere. Start by, you know, watching some great YouTube videos. There's a lot of great masters out there, including Mario here, who's, you know, going to be sharing some great videos. You know, just start following some credible people. Get away from listening to the Fox News and the CNN and
Yeah.
those types of news outlets, because you're not really learning what you need to learn. You know, start to follow some more credible people on YouTube. And at the end of the day, it's free. right?
Yeah,
This is content you
absolutely.
don't pay for. And so it's a great source for information.
Brings us to question number four, and you touched on it a little bit. You talk about the rise of Renter Nation. What key trends have you identified in that are shaping maybe the future of the rental market?
Yeah, so there's many. Today on this video, I'll share with you just three particular ones that are really shaping it. Number one is in the United States during the pandemic, we've ran up such a huge federal deficit
Yeah,
in the United States, and so that needs to be paid back, right? And so we have interest payments on that. And there's since the start of the pandemic, we've increased that federal deficit by $8 trillion. And so, you know, that money needs to come from somewhere to pay that debt payment,
it's
right?
not
That
free.
interest. It's not free, right? So what ends up happening there, and we're starting to see it here in the States, we're starting to see it. What's happening is the federal government is paying that interest payment each and every month on that loan, let's call it, for that debt, right?
Yeah,
But the other side of that is it leaves less money at the federal government level to flow down to each one of the particular states for healthcare programs, for education programs, for pension systems, right? It's not known very well, but some of the state pension systems in the United States are partially funded by the U.S. government,
yeah,
right? Uh, and so if that money isn't flowing down from the federal government for the healthcare programs, welfare programs, education programs, pension, on and on and on, right? That money needs to come from somewhere at the state level. And so one of the things that we're starting to see, we've been seeing for a couple of years now, is the property taxes are going up.
yeah,
And we have an affordability issue, much like in Canada. You guys have an affordability issue. We have an affordability issue here. The housing prices have risen dramatically here in the States, and it's hard to afford to buy a house.
yeah,
And so there's this affordability issue. But I'm one of those people where I say, even if interest rates came down and helped people to, so to speak, make it more affordable, they're going to be hurt by the fact that property taxes are going to continue to rise,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because this money at the state level, it needs to come from somewhere to be able to fund these state level welfare, health, education, pension programs. And it's going to a large degree, come from property tax increases. Right. So that creates, again, even with interest rates coming down, property taxes going up, that just continues this affordability issue and drives more people towards being renters.
yeah,
Okay. So that's one aspect. Another aspect that we see happening worldwide, this is a worldwide phenomena that I'm going to talk about here, not just in the US, is that with energy, right? Fossil fuels. We've already passed peak production of energy in the world in terms of oil, natural gas, things like that really power the world today. Oil, coal, natural gas, those are the fossil fuels that power the world, right? And
yeah,
and create GDP for countries, really. Solar and wind, those are new technologies. Maybe in the future, down the road, another 50 years from now, they'll be much more efficient and powerful and beneficial to us, but they're not today. And so, since we've already passed peak fossil fuel production in the world, not just United States, in the world, this affects every country. When you pass that point, it starts to get more expensive to pull those natural resources out of the ground.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And so as that gets more expensive, all the related byproducts that are made with oil and natural gas and from coal, right? All those byproducts become more expensive. It's just, that cost gets passed down to the end user. So in terms of a homeowner, when you try to replace the asphalt shingles on your home, those asphalt shingles come from Oil.
Yeah.
It's an oil byproduct, right? Asphalt. It's going to be more expensive, right? Home ownership cost is going to increase. The same thing when you have to seal coat your driveway or replace your driveway with an asphalt driveway, right? It's going to become more expensive. The same with any product in your home, whether it's a carpet is created from the use of oil and natural gas and coal, right? Same with appliances, different things. If you're heating your home, you guys up in Vancouver, up in Canada, it gets pretty cold up there, right? So you
Yeah,
probably use some sort of like natural gas or coal or
absolutely.
something like that, right? To be able to heat your homes. And so all of that is going to get more and has already started to get more and more expensive.
Yeah.
So what does that do? Home ownership cost becomes that much more expensive and drives people to being renters because they can't afford the home ownership cost on top of the increase in property tax,
So
right?
it's not
So
one thing. Yeah, it's multiple aspects that are adding up together.
yeah,
Going
yeah,
towards the rental nation.
yeah. And then the third aspect has nothing to do with either of those two things. It's just society itself. It's a societal thing that's driving people more towards a renter nation. We've had for a long time now, and this is like conditioning society to
Yeah,
behave a certain way. We've had Amazon next day delivery, right? And in some cases, same day delivery. We've conditioned society to have this desire, this need for immediate satisfaction, right? They want to have this immediate gratification and these experiences, right? You look at how society works today. We have companies that, you know, I use the example of like Instacart. Do you guys have Instacart up in Canada?
yeah.
Right?
We have some similar things.
Right? You don't even have to go to your grocery store anymore to buy anything. You could just order it up on Instacart. It gets delivered to your home. Great. Not only that, Mario, if you don't even want to cook the food, never mind going if people don't want to go to the store and buy the food. Some people don't even want to cook the food. So we have these things called DoorDash and Grubhub. You know, where you could just order the food already cooked up, right? So we have this societal change happening here
Yeah,
where people want to do less and less, and they want to have more experiences, more fun. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that is what's happening. And so what that means is there's less of a desire in society for folks on their nights and weekends to mow the grass,
yeah,
paint the trim on the house, clean the gutters, wash the outside windows, right? If they don't even want to go to the grocery store and buy the food or even, come home and cook it, right? They want to order it from other sources. There's even less of a desire for society to want to do those things around the house, like, paint the trim, clean the gutters, mow the lawn. They don't want to do that on the weekend. They want to go out, they want to have experiences, they want to have fun, they want to spend time with their family. It's society is just different today. So what that does is it again, another factor, that third factor that I speak about, and there's many others that push people more towards wanting to rent than to actually own a home because they don't want to do those things
yeah.
that come with home ownership.
And then it becomes an opportunity for real estate investors to capitalize on this.
You
Uh,
got it. And that's why we're scaling because we see so many
yeah,
opportunities out there for really providing good quality homes at affordable rental prices to people who need it.
yeah.
We see that space just kind of growing here.
Tony, you wrote a book, and that brings us to our final and fifth question. Uh, you wrote a book, Freedom at Risk: How to Protect Your Personal and Financial Freedoms. Two things. What motivated you to write that book, and what kind of advice can people find in there?
Great questions, and thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, so I did write the book Freedom at Risk: How to Protect Your Personal and Financial Freedom because a lot of this isn't being taught in school. It just isn't.
Yeah,
And so I wanted to, create something that shared it in a very simplified format, right? Some of this stuff can be very, very complex. And when you look at, if you ever listen to, either politicians or the Federal Reserve, they make things so complex, and it doesn't have to be. So I took these various aspects and I just simplified them. I boiled them down. And in the first part of the book, I explain various reasons why our freedoms are at risk. And so I talk about the political system, how that puts our freedoms at risk. I speak about the education system. Now, I'm a fan of getting a good education, but the school system doesn't always provide that for us. And there's some freedoms that we lose as a result of, the construct of the education system. So I talk about the education system, how that can steal our freedoms, and just be aware of it, right?
Yeah.
I talk about the economy. There's obviously good aspects, but I also, share some different economic aspects that steal our freedoms. I talk a lot about technology, which is good, right? I use technology all day long, but technology can steal some of our freedoms. I talk about society. Society, us ourselves, we willingly give over some of our freedoms to the politicians, and it never used to be that way. Even as short term as 50 years ago, I look at it and I say, if my parents were still alive today, they would be very upset with what folks are doing here in the United States in terms of just freely giving up their freedoms and not fighting for certain things or making changes themselves in their daily lives or in their communities. So society gives up their freedoms.
Yeah.
So we need to understand. So part one of the book is really just laying the framework to understand how our freedoms are at risk.
Okay.
Okay. And then part two goes into what I describe, it's many chapters, but what I describe as an a la carte package. And I talk a lot about how to protect yourself. Everything from personal protections, like say you want to get a second passport, second citizenship to a different country. If you're in a position where you can do that, we talk about that to allow yourself to travel more freely from one country to another, have different bank accounts, different currencies. There's some freedoms that are offered by doing that. We also talk a lot about, creating a garden in your own backyard, right? How nice is it to get away from the TV? We do it. We have a garden. Part of our garden, we have 300 potato plants that we
Wow.
grow in the Northeast. Yeah, so we get out to the garden. We get away from in front of the TV, get away
Yeah.
from the Fox News, get away from the CNN, get outside, get some fresh air. Have conversations with your loved ones, with your kids. You know, create a community, and you're out there. You're seeing where your fruits and vegetables are coming from. There's a certain sense of freedom that comes with that when you're able to grow your own food. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be able to grow maybe all your food, but at least some of it. There's a certain warmth and satisfaction that comes with having that freedom. So we talk a lot about personal freedoms, but then we also talk about financial freedoms and things like, not just real estate. We talk a lot about real estate because we believe so firmly that real estate is a great way to create wealth, and with more wealth, you get more freedom.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about real estate, but there's other things we talk about. We talk about stocks and bonds and diversification in certain assets. We talk about precious metals as a way to hedge some bets. We talk about asymmetric plays, and that's just a fancy term for, think about Bitcoin. When you could have bought Bitcoin for like a nickel,
Yeah.
right?
I wish it was still there, and I
Right.
wish I
So,
did.
we talk about that concept where, we look for that next asymmetric play, that next Bitcoin type of thing where you can buy for a nickel. And if you lose relatively little money. But if like Bitcoin, it goes from a nickel to 60, $70,000, for one Bitcoin, that's an asymmetric play. That's huge
Yeah.
upside potential. So we explain these different things and we talk about them. And so that's the premise of the book, Freedom at Risk, is to help people understand how their freedoms are being eroded and being stolen, to how to get to the other side of that and have more freedom, more wealth, more abundance in your life.
I love the fact that you first explain, like you said, the framework or people understand the context. And I like the fact that it's not a one box concept because
Yeah.
people's lives are all different. So one person might pick things one, two, and three, and then the next person will pick four, five, and six. So
Yeah.
I love that the opportunity that you give and that you how would I say that you give to the different people, different lifestyles, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, not everybody's 100% into real estate, and that's okay. I don't look to pull everybody into real estate. I know, I've been around a long time. I know real estate isn't for everyone, and not everyone should be in real estate. But if they have an interest in starting their own business of some sort,
Yeah.
a business is a great way to create wealth and create some freedoms for yourself. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. It's just really inspire people to take action, right?
Yeah.
Inspire people like you do here with your YouTube channel, your podcast, to be able to inspire people to take action. That's what we're looking to do and to help people with.
Well, Tony, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast. It's a short podcast, but we go straight to the point. We might have to bring you for a second episode at some point.
Yeah,
We
I would love it. No, this was great. You made it super easy for me. This was fun. I hope the listeners and the viewers had fun with us today. And yeah, absolutely. I'll come back anytime you need me to, Mario.
Thanks a lot, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Five Questions podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell on our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Stay tuned for more insights and tips to transform your real estate and business game. See you next time.